Joseph Stalin. The name itself conjures images of a ruthless dictator, a man of iron will who held the Soviet Union in his grip for nearly 3 decades. He was a master of political intrigue, a paranoid tyrant who sent millions to their deaths without a second thought. His enemies, real and imagined, were eliminated with brutal efficiency. He was a man who, it seemed, feared nothing and no one. But what if I told you there was one man who made Stalin tremble? A man who defied the Soviet dictator, looked him in the eye, and refused to back down. A man who, after surviving numerous assassination attempts, sent a chilling message to the Kremlin that put an end to the attacks. This is the story of the only man Stalin truly feared. His name was Josip Broz Tito, the leader of Yugoslavia, and his story is one of courage, defiance, and the incredible power of one man to stand against a titan. To understand the conflict, we must first understand the men. Josif Vissarionovich Djugashvili, later known as Joseph Stalin, was born into poverty in Georgia. He was a revolutionary from a young age, drawn to the promises of communism. After the Bolshevik Revolution, he rose through the party ranks, using his cunning and ruthlessness to eliminate his rivals. By the late 1920s, he was the undisputed leader of the Soviet Union. Stalin's rule was absolute. He transformed the Soviet Union into an industrial and military superpower, but at a terrible cost. His policies led to famine, and his paranoia fueled the Great Purge, a campaign of political repression that saw millions executed or sent to the gulags. Stalin built a cult of personality around himself, becoming a godlike figure to his people and a symbol of terror to his enemies. Far to the south, in the Balkans, another future leader was being forged in the fires of conflict. Josip Broz, who would later adopt the name Tito, was born in Croatia, then part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. He was a charismatic and determined young man who became a committed communist. During World War II, Tito led the Yugoslav partisans, a fiercely independent and effective resistance movement against the Nazi occupation. Unlike many other Eastern European communist leaders who were installed by the Red Army, Tito and his partisans liberated Yugoslavia with minimal Soviet assistance. This gave him a level of popular support and independence that was unique in the emerging communist bloc. He was a war hero, a man of the people, and he was not accustomed to taking orders. In the immediate aftermath of World War II, Stalin and Tito were allies. Both were communists, and both had fought against the fascist powers. Stalin saw Tito as a key figure in his vision of a communist Eastern Europe, a buffer zone against the West. But the seeds of conflict were already being sown. Stalin's vision was one of absolute control. He wanted the communist states of Eastern Europe to be mere satellites, extensions of the Soviet Union's power. But Tito had other ideas. He envisioned a socialist Yugoslavia that was independent, a federation of Balkan states that would chart its own course. The cracks in the relationship began to show. Tito pursued his own foreign policy, providing support to communist guerrillas in Greece against Stalin's wishes. He also began to explore the idea of a Balkan federation with Bulgaria and Albania, without consulting Moscow. To Stalin, this was a direct challenge to his authority. The breaking point came in 1948. Stalin, furious at Tito's independence, orchestrated the expulsion of Yugoslavia from the Cominform, an international organization of communist parties. This was followed by an economic blockade and a vicious propaganda campaign against Tito, who was branded a traitor and a fascist. The Tito-Stalin split was now official and public. For Stalin, excommunication was not enough. He was a man who did not tolerate rivals, and Tito's defiance was a personal insult. He became obsessed with eliminating the Yugoslav leader. What followed was a secret war, a series of assassination attempts that were as creative as they were deadly. Stalin's spy master, Lavrenti Beria, was tasked with the mission. According to historical accounts, there were at least 22 attempts on Tito's life. One plot involved a booby-trapped music box. Another planned to release a plague-like bacteria in Tito's vicinity. There was even a plan to have a trusted aide poison him during a meal. But Tito was no fool. He was a seasoned military leader who had survived the brutalities of war. His security forces were highly effective, and they managed to thwart every attempt. They captured assassins, intercepted communications, and uncovered plots before they could be carried out. With each failed attempt, Stalin's frustration grew, and Tito's legend as the man who could not be killed grew with it. After years of living under the constant threat of assassination, Tito had had enough. He decided to send a direct message to Stalin, a message that would become one of the most audacious and defiant acts of the Cold War. "Stop sending people to kill me. We've already captured 5 of them, one with a bomb and another with a rifle. If you don't stop sending killers, I'll send one to Moscow, and I won't have to send a second." The letter was a stunning act of defiance. It was a direct challenge to Stalin's power, a message that Tito would not be intimidated. While we don't know Stalin's exact reaction, historical accounts suggest that the letter had a profound impact. The assassination attempts stopped. For the first time, it seemed, Stalin had backed down. Josip Broz Tito would go on to rule Yugoslavia for over 3 decades, until his death in 1980. He became a key figure in the non-aligned movement, a group of nations that refused to take sides in the Cold War. He built a unique brand of socialism, and for a time, he held the complex and often fractious nation of Yugoslavia together. So why did Stalin, the man of steel, fear Tito? It wasn't just about military might, though Tito's partisans were a formidable force. It was about what Tito represented. He was a symbol of defiance, a crack in the monolithic facade of the communist bloc. He was a leader who had earned his power, not had it handed to him by Moscow. He was a man who refused to be a puppet, and in doing so, he exposed the limits of Stalin's power. In a world of giants, it is often the courage of a single individual that changes the course of history. And in the story of the Cold War, there is no greater example of this than the man who dared to say no to Joseph Stalin.